Hi guys, it's Roy from Bellalos 3D here with the third part of my modular wall series. And in this episode we will be creating two more modular wall pieces. The first will be a wall with a doorway and door frame, and the second will be a wall with a set of windows. So that's the end of the waffling from introductory Roy. I'm going to pass you on to tutorial Roy for more waffling. Right, so we're back in Blender and in our original scene. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the floor here. We don't need the floor for now. I'm going to delete the excess wall there. I'm going to rename this one from wall template to wall. It is, after all, a wall. And we're going to move that into our template, the actual template into our template folder. Right, so we now have two walls, and this is our main wall, and again I'm going to hide that one for now. We don't need that. And this is a duplicate of that wall. Let's press Ctrl G, move that back to the center and focus in on it. And what we're going to do on this one, I'm going to create a door, but I need to know it's the right size. Now I can take measurements and you know, put in measurements and do it to real world scale, but an easier way to do that is to go up to File, Import FBX, and let's see if I can remember where I've stored him. Reference, there we go. And this is the default character from Unity. I just dragged him out of Unity and brought him into Blender, and that's our scale. So if we put this model into Unity right now, it would be scaled in the same scale as that. So let's see, I need to just move that along there. I need to make this door big enough for him to walk through. So let's go into edit mode, and I think I'm going to start off by pressing L over the skirting board and the coving and hide that. We'll do that separately. I'm going to turn my screencast keys on so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. Right. So let's give this an edge loop with Control and R and select and hovering over this top edge. Let's scroll up. Is that going to be wide enough? I think that needs to be a little bit wider. I mean, that's a bit narrow for a door, so let's bring it up to maybe there. And I think, yes, that'll be right. Now, I only need two of these lines, so I'm going to click on this one, press X, and press I to dissolve that edge. So we've now got a wide enough doorway. And remember, we're going to have door frames in with this as well, so it's going to be a bit narrower than this line. Okay, so now we need to look at the head height. And we know that this wall is 3 meters, and I'd say if we put in 2 loops like so, that divides it into 3 1-meter heights, and set that into position. And if we get rid of and left click this one, X and I to dissolve it, we get rid of that, and I think that's about the right height. So I can now go into face mode, select that face and press X F, and I think that's about right for a door. Yeah, I'd say that was about right. Bearing in mind that we will have a frame around the edge, so it's not quite as wide as it looks. And that's it. That's all we need for that. We just need to do the same on the skirting board. So let's press Alt and H to bring back the skirting boards. And again, Control R, scroll it up twice, and we'll get rid of that one. And if we go into face mode, and we can press Alt and left click on there to select all of those, X and F, and delete those. And we can leave the coving. We don't need to do anything with the coving. And there we have our doorway. Okay, so now we want to add our door frame. So let's press Shift and C to make sure that the cursor is in the center, and press Shift A, Mesh Cube to create a cube. Let's hit the 1 on the numpad to go into front orthographic view and go into edit mode with the tab key. Press G and Z to move it up in the Z axis, and press 1 to move it 1 unit. And there we go. And let's move it along to this side. In fact, note, we go back out into object mode, press N, and what I want to do is I want to make that 1 meter wide, I think. So on the X axis, press 1. Okay. And then we press Control A and rotation and scale just to apply them scales. So now what I can do is I can, in object mode there, I can press GX to move it along the X axis and press Control, and it moves it directly to that line there. And we have that in the perfect place right there. So let's go into edit mode, and all I need to do is scale on the Y axis with S and Y and scale it all the way down. And so it's just poking out over the skirting board. We don't want it flush because it just looks a bit odd. We don't want it behind the skirting board because that'll look even odder. We need it just over the top because you've got like 2 pieces of wood together, so to speak. Okay, so we've got that, and maybe we want that out a little bit more, so SY, bring that out a little bit more, just there. Right, now what I want to do is, taking a look at it, what I want to do is, I want to scale it on the X a little bit, because if I go into wireframe with Shift Z, that's flush with these lines here. So I just want it just over the top of those lines, just overlapping. And I also want the same with the top face there, GZ, bring it up a little bit so it's slightly overlapping. Not a lot, just a little bit, just to keep it within that geometry. So now we should have the perfect shape for it. But obviously, you need a hole in the door frame so the door fits in it. So let's select this front face and let's select this back face. There we go. And in front orthographic mode with 1 on the numpad, we'll press I to inset and we'll just bring that in, I'd say about that far. That should be perfectly wide enough. And then I can press Control and E and bridge the edge loops. And there we have our hole in our door frame. Unfortunately, we've got this little step here. We don't want this little step here. We don't need this little step here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Alt and left click so that it selects all the faces in that loop around there, and press X and F, and then go into edge mode with number 2, select the edge there and that edge there, and then we can just go G to move, Z on the Z axis, and then hovering over this line here, Control, and that flattens that out perfectly. Now we need a little bit more definition along the center of this, I think. They usually have the main frame, and then you usually have a little bit in the middle where the door goes. So let's press Control and R, and we'll make 3 loop cuts on this, and you'll see why later on. And I think that's about right. Let's hit faces. So what we want is, if we press Alt and Alt, we can select those faces there. Yep, that should be enough. Press E and right click, and then front orthographic, S and X to bring it in just a touch. And then if I was to select this face and this face, and from the front again, GZ, bring that down. We have our lip inside of our doorway like so. And what I want to do is I want to get rid of these faces off the bottom. XF. Now obviously, because we're going to be putting walls back to back, we don't want this door frame the whole way through, so we only want half of that door frame. So let's Control R just there, and we can press V, and that tears that there. So now if I was to press 2 and Alt and left click that and press V on that also, we would now find that that piece is separate. So let's delete that one. So we now have our half door frame. Let's texture it. So first things first, let's alt select the edge loop there and the edge loop there. Control E and mark seams. Press A to select all, press U and unwrap. And there we go. That's all nicely unwrapped. And that's quite a neat unwrap. I think we can deal with that. Now if I hover my cursor over this window and press Control and space, that enlarges that window and focuses it so we can see just the UV map. Now obviously that's the wrong texture for the set that we're using, so let's change that, and we change that to the green one like so. And we now need to take all of these UVs and position them in where the wood is, and this is the wood here. So let's, first things first, let's turn this right way round, R90, and we'll move that over there. And then let's select all of this and move that over there. And then press A to select everything, and we're just going to scale it down. And we've got that on individual origins. We don't need it on individual origins. Let's go to medium point and scale that down. And just shift it around and scale it down until we get it in the right place. About there should do. And that should be about right. Now, obviously, we haven't got the material set on that, so in object mode, go to the materials tab, and we just press this little drop down there and choose wall 2. And there we have our door frame all set up perfectly, and it looks quite good. I think there could actually do with a little bit of beveling on it, so let's go in and do some beveling. And I think if we select those, yeah, that should be okay. And that one. So what we want is we want the corners, the outer edge, 90-degree outer edge angles. We don't want to try and bevel this back piece because there's obviously no geometry to bevel. And I think we'll be all right with the inner curve there. So let's press Control and B and just bring it up just a touch, like so. Yeah, and I think that just gives it a little bit more natural look, less sharp, less fake, if you know what I mean. And I think that looks pretty good. So let's move on to the next thing. Okay, so now we're going to add some windows, but first things first, what I want to do is select the door frame and then shift select the wall, press Control J to join them together, and we'll rename that to wall underscore doorway, just to keep everything clear in the hierarchy there, so we know exactly what we got. And let's hide that and bring back the wall, the plain wall, and select that and Shift D to duplicate, hide the wall, and this will be our window. So let's call this wall underscore window. So now the type of window we want is the type you've seen probably in every single American movie with a high school in it, where you're walking down the corridor, you see all the doors and the lockers, and you see there's a row of windows all the way along the top. So we're going to do something like that. So let's take a look in edit mode, and let's find, first things first, let's find our door height. And if I remember rightly, we set our door height exactly 2 meters, and this is 3 meters tall. So if I press Control R and scroll up once, and then left click and right click to set that into position, there's our 2 meter mark right there. So X and I, get rid of that bit. Now we need to add loops in here for our windows, and I'm thinking we want it just a little bit of plaster underneath the coving, and about there on there. So let's Control R again. Let's keep scrolling up, and I think twice maybe enough. 2 I think would be too far. Yeah, no, let's do it there, and let's left click once so we can move this around, and let's move it around to about there. Should do it. Now we don't need this line, and we don't need these 2 lines now, and we have our area for our for our window to go into. And let's delete that because we don't need that anymore. So now we need to create the window frames. And to do that, let's go back into object mode and press Shift A and to create a cube. And as we did before, this is already the right width. Let's go into edit mode, select all with A, G, X and Control. And that brings that to there, and as you see, that fits perfectly across on the x-axis. And let's bring this up, G, Z and Control to bring that up there, but obviously that's a little bit too tall there, so we select the bottom face here, press 1 on the keyboard there, and I'm going to press Shift and Z to go into wireframe, G and Z to move that up, and if I control click onto that line there and come back out with Shift Z, that should be just about right. And again, as we did with the doorway, we just want to bring that in on the y-axis as far as possible, and then bring that all the way along there, SY, and bring it in. And we only want it overlapping just a tiny bit, just a little sill on that, like so. Excellent. And I think that's about right. Now, I think on a window of this sort of length, it needs to be broken down maybe into 2 smaller panes or panels, maybe 3. Let's make it 3. Control R, and I think that'd be about right, just there like that. And what I can do, as that's done that all the way around, press 3 to go into face mode and select all of the faces on the front and all of the faces on the back. And what we can do is press I and just slowly bring them in to inset about that far. Now we don't want them like that because we don't want them all as one piece. We want them individually. So let's take that back, and we can then go I and scale it in. And if we press I again, that will make them individual faces, so we can scale them in like so. And that looks just about right, I'd say. And then what I want to do is press E and right click and SY to bring that in just a touch. And then I bring it back out a bit, about that far I should do. And then again we want to press I to inset, like so, and E, right click, S and Y to bring them in again. And there we have our windows. Now again, as with the door, we only want half of this, so let's press Control and R and loop that across there. And if I press V, that then separates this piece completely from the other piece, X and F, and that is perfectly in line with the back line there. So when you put them together, they'll connect flushly. Okay, so let's texture this. So first things first, we'll give it a texture, wall 2. And what I want to do is, in edit mode, with face mode on, select each of these window panes. I'm going to press Control E, mark seam. And I'm going to go U, unwrap. And as you can see, they're all unwrapped on there. Now what I want to do is I want to do that again, because what I want to do is I'm going to do them individually like so. And then when I let them, it'll be easier to put them together. Let's see. We change the snapping to vertex and G and Control to bring that in there. So we now have all 3 panes together like so. I can bring them all over to the glass section and we can just scale them down. And just bring them in and scale them like so. And that should give us our material. Obviously in the current mode it's not set right. Let's have a look at the shading. There we go. For some reason that hadn't connected up properly. Okay, let's go back to the UV editing. So we've got our window shading on there. Now let's have a look at the panes. Again, let's go into edge mode and alt click on all of these corner pieces. And Control E, mark seam. We'll select this piece here. And this piece here. And then go down below. This one here and this one here. And press Control and E, mark seam. So now if I press that, or A to select all, and then Shift unselect these, I can press U and U again, and that's a bit better. Let's now put these into position. Okay, and that should now have a nice wood frame on it. And that's our windows. It's pretty simple, basic, and very easy to do, as you can see. Now, I was going to do corners in this video, but it seems to have overrun a little bit. I want to try and keep the videos a bit shorter for future retention. And I know it's hard to watch a long video with me waffling. I can get a little bit boring. So I'm trying to reduce how long I'm waffling for. So let's take a look at what we've done. Let's bring back the wall and the wall doorway. And let's select the wall and press GX-2. And the doorway, GX2. So we've got one nice long wall there, like so. And let's turn the render on and see what happens. That looks exactly the same because it's using the EV render. So let's go into cycles and switch that to GPU. As you see, much better. It takes a little while to render. But look at the wood there. You see the wood grain all around the edges there. You see that the paint is slightly reflected, slightly shiny, where the wood itself is actually quite rough. And the same on the walls. You can see the walls are quite rough. But if you look carefully at the actual painted parts of the walls in the right direction, if you look in the right direction, you can see that it's slightly shiny on the paint and rougher on the plaster at the top there. And again, with the windows, you can see how nice reflective windows and the paint on the windows there. So that's it for this video. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did like it, then please hit the like button and share it on any social media platform. It really helps with the algorithm to really expose the channel to more subscribers. Please hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos of the same sort of content. And don't forget to hit the notification button so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope to see you in my next one.